I'm Penelope, and let me tell you my story. When I was 19, my stepdad and mom abandoned me during a family therapy session. Not by accident, not because they forgot. They did it on purpose. Theodore, my stepdad, looked me straight in the eye and said I was never really family. Beatrice, my mom and a former nurse, nodded in cold agreement. They wanted to teach me a lesson, to show me I didn't belong. I never went back. But 15 years later, they found me. Not because they missed me, not because they regretted what they did. They found me because they needed something: money, support, and control. And when I refused them, they didn't stop at guilt. They turned my cousin Rosalind against me. They spread lies about my professional competence as a psychologist. They tried to destroy everything I built, attacking the very career born from their cruelty. The afternoon heat pressed against my skin as I sat in the back seat, psychology textbook open on my lap. My headphones blocked out the tension between Theodore and my mom Beatrice as we drove to our family therapy appointment. The road stretched ahead through Georgia's suburban sprawl. We were heading to Dr. Martinez's office for what Theodore called our final family session. The trip felt heavy with unspoken expectations, mom maintaining her nurse's composure, Theodore lecturing about psychological accountability, and me dreading another confrontation. I was used to these sessions being weaponized against me. It was just another test, another way to prove I didn't belong. I looked up as we pulled into the clinic parking lot. The modern building sat among other medical offices, sterile and unwelcoming. Theodore parked near the entrance, engine still running. "Go check us in," he said without looking at me. I closed my textbook and blinked. "What?" Mom turned, her smile clinical and cold. "Tell them we'll be right there, honey." I sighed, grabbing my backpack. The air conditioning hit me as I entered the waiting room. I approached the receptionist and gave our names. She nodded, pointing toward the familiar hallway. "Dr. Martinez is ready for you." I turned, expecting them to be walking in behind me. They weren't. Through the glass doors, I saw our car pulling away. For a moment, my mind went blank. Maybe they were parking somewhere else. Maybe they'd be right back. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Mom: "We've decided you need to handle your own psychological issues. Consider this therapeutic independence." My stomach dropped. This wasn't therapy. This was abandonment. My hands shook as I called Theodore. Straight to voicemail. I tried Mom, then again, each ring echoing my growing panic. I stood there, clutching my psychology textbook like a lifeline. My pulse hammered against my ribs, drowning out the soft music in the waiting room. They weren't coming back. I should have been shocked and broken down. But a strange clarity washed over me instead. This wasn't their first psychological manipulation. At 17, they'd locked me out during a panic attack, calling it exposure therapy. At 18, they'd canceled my college funding, claiming I needed to earn independence. This was just their cruelest lesson yet, using my own field of study against me. I looked around the waiting room. Other patients sat quietly, unaware of the 19-year-old psychology student whose family had just discarded her in a therapist's office. I wasn't going to wait for them. I wasn't going to play their twisted game. I checked my account, $340 from my campus job. Not much, but enough. I approached the receptionist again. "Where's the nearest bus station?" I asked, my voice steadier than my racing heart. She gave me directions, her expression concerned. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom: "Don't call Clarence. Theodore says real independence means no family safety nets." I blocked both numbers. Then I did exactly what they forbade. The phone rang once before a warm voice answered. "Penelope?" I took a shaky breath. "Uncle Clarence, I need help." My voice held steady, but inside I was fragmenting. "Penelope?" His voice sharpened with worry. "What's wrong?" I gripped the phone, standing alone in that sterile waiting room. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my words came out clear. "They left me here, Uncle Clarence. During therapy. They just drove away." Silence, then a sharp breath. Stay exactly where you are, sweetheart. I'm coming. That was 15 years ago. Now I stood in my home office, my psychology practice, staring out at the suburban Atlanta skyline. The neighborhood was quiet, but my mind raced with the past creeping back in. My phone sat on my desk, screen lit with missed calls, 27 of them. I ignored the unknown numbers. My eyes focused on the only one that mattered, Rosalind. A name I hadn't seen in 15 years. My stomach twisted as I pressed play on the first voicemail. Penny, please pick up. Theodore and Aunt Beatrice found you. They need your help. My grip tightened. That nickname, that pleading tone. She still called me Penny, like we were children, like nothing had happened. I exhaled sharply and deleted the voicemail. The next one was just sobbing. By the third, she sounded desperate. Penny, please. You don't understand. They're struggling. Just talk to me. I set the phone down before hurling it across the room. They had found me, and I knew exactly what that meant. I walked away 15 years ago with nothing but determination and rage. I worked through graduate school, lived in a tiny apartment, and earned my psychology degree. Every client I'd helped had been built on the foundation they tried to destroy. Now, just as I was finally free, they wanted back in. I sat down, hands trembling as I ran them through my hair. My reflection in the window appeared calm, but my mind was chaos. I knew this day would come. I just hadn't expected it now. I scrolled until I saw a name that made my blood freeze, Theodore Holloway, my stepdad. I hesitated before pressing play. The moment his voice hit my ears, something inside me died. You think your psychology degree makes you better than us now? His voice carried that familiar condescending teacher tone. We shaped you, Penelope. Everything you are is because of our guidance. I clenched my jaw. He continued his lecture. You think you can just erase your family after everything we invested in you? He scoffed. Well, guess what? Psychology doesn't work that way. You owe us. The voicemail ended abruptly. A text appeared, your stepdad is very disappointed in your behavior, Penelope. We need to discuss this. Call us. I stared at the message, my chest constricting. Disappointed. They abandoned me in a therapist's office, vanished from my life, and now I had disappointed them. The anger burned white hot. They hadn't changed at all. I leaned back, fingers tightening around my phone as I swallowed hard. The part of me that was still 19, standing alone in that waiting room, wanted to scream. But I wasn't 19 anymore. I wasn't lost. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't going to run this time. I opened my messages and typed to Rosalind, tomorrow. Coffee shop on Main. 8 a.m. Come alone or don't come at all. I hit send, then set my phone down and looked back outside. Tomorrow I would see my cousin for the first time in 15 years. And this time, I wasn't afraid. I was already at the coffee shop when Rosalind walked in, eyes scanning nervously for me. She looked almost the same sharp features, same anxious energy. But the years had added weight to her shoulders, lines around her eyes. She had always been the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over family tensions. But now she looked like someone carrying burdens too heavy for her. Our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she approached, tucking hair behind her ear nervously. Hey, Penny. I sipped my coffee slowly before responding. I'm not Penny anymore. I'm Penelope. Her smile wavered. Right. Sorry. She sat across from me, fingers drumming on the table. It's been so long, she said. I didn't reply. I just watched her, waiting for her real purpose. She sighed, fidgeting with her purse strap. You look successful. I raised an eyebrow. And you look nervous. Rosalind laughed shakily. Well, this is awkward. No, Rose, it's simple. I leaned forward. You want something. Just say it. Her lips pressed together, then she exhaled. Theodore and Aunt Beatrice, they're in trouble. She rushed on without waiting. The words tumbled out, clearly rehearsed. Theodore lost his pension gambling. Beatrice has medical debt. They're drowning, Penelope. Facing eviction. I clenched my jaw, staring at her. They really need your help, she continued. I breathed slowly, deliberately. I don't owe them anything. Rosalind flinched. I'm not asking you to forgive them. I just. She swallowed. I just want you to listen. My fingers tightened around my coffee cup. The audacity. Had anyone listened when I was 19, standing alone in that therapy office? Had anyone listened when they used psychological terms to justify abandoning me? I leaned back, stomach churning with rage and exhaustion. They didn't make a mistake, Rose, I said, voice like ice. They abandoned me during therapy. On purpose. She winced. But, they came back later. And whose fault was that? I cut her off. The air between us shattered like glass. Years of silence, of pretending it wasn't that cruel. Rosalind blinked rapidly, hands twisting in her lap. They thought you'd come home. They thought you'd. Her voice broke. They thought I'd crawl back, I finished, like I always did. She stared at the table, breathing shallowly. I shook my head. I'm not their family anymore, Rosalind. I haven't been for years. Her shoulders shook, but I didn't soften. I pulled out money and dropped it on the table. If they contact me again, I won't be polite. Rosalind remained seated, staring down. I walked away without looking back. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. The next morning, I focused on client sessions, trying to forget my conversation with Rosalind. It left a bitter taste, but I wouldn't let it derail my day. The past was past, and I'd built something real, something no one could destroy. Or so I thought. A sharp knock interrupted my notes. Marlowe, my colleague, stood in the doorway, face tense with discomfort. Hey, you need to see this. She entered, phone in hand, hesitating before showing me. I frowned and took it. The screen showed Facebook. My breath caught as I read, our daughter abandoned us after everything we sacrificed for her. Below, we raised her to be strong and this is how she repays us. Heartless. Heat crept up my neck. They were playing victims, as if they'd suffered. Hundreds of comments condemned me, strangers sharing posts, some tagging my practice. I scrolled through responses, stomach twisting, can't believe kids treat parents like this. What a disgrace. Ungrateful brat. Success corrupts people. I slammed the phone down. Marlowe shifted uncomfortably. I didn't want to show you, but it's spreading. Clients are seeing it. Some left bad reviews calling you emotionally damaged. My pulse hammered. This wasn't just posts. This was warfare. I breathed slowly, steadying my trembling hands. Who else knows? Marlowe hesitated. Some staff, a few clients. They're waiting to see your response. I nodded slowly. Thanks, Marlowe. I'll handle it. Once alone, I called Rosalind. She answered warily. Penny? My grip tightened. Did you know about this? After a long silence, she exhaled. I told them not to, but they're desperate, Penny. I laughed humorlessly. Desperate people don't destroy their children. They just want help, Rosalind tried. They think this is the only way. I scoffed. By lying? Turning strangers against me? Rosalind didn't answer. I shook my head. I should have known they wouldn't change. I hung up. A text came immediately, you ungrateful brat. Take that post down. I stared at the screen, dangerous calm settling over me. Then I opened my social media and typed, some people rewrite history to escape accountability. I won't let them. I hit post and set my phone down. They wanted war. Let's fight. I thought a few Facebook posts were bad enough. Then they showed up at my practice. It had been a long week of damage control, monitoring social media, reassuring clients that my personal life didn't affect my professional work, and ignoring messages from distant relatives with sudden opinions. I was running on little sleep, fueled by caffeine and determination, when my office phone rang. Penelope? Marlowe's voice sounded hesitant. There's an elderly couple here demanding to see you. I froze. The coffee in my hand suddenly tasted bitter. Did they give names? I asked, though I already knew. Marlowe sighed. They claim to be your parents. I exhaled sharply, forcing my expression neutral. Tell them I'm with a client. A pause. They're causing a scene. Of course they were. I set my cup down and walked to the waiting room. The moment I appeared, I spotted them. Mom was in full performance mode, dabbing fake tears with a tissue. Theodore stood beside her, arms crossed, scanning the room like he owned it. The second she saw me, Mom's face crumpled. My baby, she wailed, loud enough to turn heads. You won't even speak to your own mother. I stopped, jaw clenching. Around us, clients whispered. Some pulled out phones, recording this drama unfolding. I swallowed rising bile. Theodore's expression twisted into a sneer. You've become one of those people, haven't you? The kind who abandons family? I didn't flinch. Leave. Now. Mom let out a choked sob, clutching her chest dramatically. I carried you for 9 months. Raised you. And now you treat us like strangers. I clenched my fists. You are strangers to me. A collective gasp rippled through the waiting room. Silence stretched. Then Theodore's face reddened. You think your psychology degree makes you superior? His voice carried, meant to draw attention. Mom actually dropped to her knees. Started crying into her hands like a broken woman. All we wanted was to reconcile, but you've become so heartless. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed entertained. I'd had enough. I stepped forward, voice deadly calm. If you don't leave immediately, I'll call security. Theodore moved closer, voice dropping to something venomous. You owe us, Penelope. We shaped you into who you are. Mom's sobbing suddenly stopped. She lifted her face, eyes gleaming with cold calculation. You can't erase your family, sweetheart. Blood is blood. I exhaled sharply, then turned to the receptionist. Call building security. Theodore laughed bitterly. You'll regret this decision. Mom stood, smoothing her clothes like nothing happened. Poor thing, she murmured, loud enough for everyone to hear. Too much education, not enough heart. I watched security escort them out, their voices echoing through glass doors. I should have known they weren't finished. This was just the beginning. The next day, a legal document arrived. Marlowe placed the thick envelope on my desk, brows furrowed. This came by courier. From a law firm. I didn't move immediately. I stared at it, déjà vu washing over me. Another attempt to drag me back into the chaos I'd escaped. Slowly, I opened it. The moment I read the first lines, my pulse hammered. They were filing a legal claim under filial responsibility laws. Unbelievable. They were trying to legally force me to support them financially. The same people who abandoned me during therapy, who ignored me for 15 years, now demanded I pay for their mistakes. I dropped the letter and pinched my nose bridge. Marlowe hovered nearby. You okay? I exhaled slowly. Call Evelyn. I need my lawyer. She nodded and left. Minutes later, I paced my office, phone pressed to my ear as Evelyn's calm voice responded. Well, she said after I read her the letter, technically, in some states, they might have a case. I stopped pacing. They can abandon me as a teenager, but now I owe them money? She sighed. It's rare, but some courts uphold these cases. Georgia doesn't have strict filial laws, but they could still make your life hell. I pressed my forehead. Unbelievable. They're hoping you'll settle, Evelyn said. Pay them off to avoid a drawn-out court battle. I laughed bitterly. Then they don't know me. My phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed across the screen. I almost ignored it. But something snapped, and I hit accept. What do you want? My voice was flat. Her voice came through, syrupy sweet. Penelope, sweetheart, we just want to work something out. We wouldn't have to do this if you'd help us. I clenched my jaw. Help you? My voice was ice. After what you did. She sighed dramatically, like I was being unreasonable. Honey, that was years ago. Families fight. Parents make mistakes. But we're still family, and we're struggling. My grip tightened around the phone. You're not my family. You lost that right when you walked away. Pause, then her voice hardened. If you fight us, we'll take this to court. Do you really want that embarrassment? I almost laughed at the irony. She thought she could threaten me with embarrassment. My anger crystallized into something sharp, unbreakable. Try me, I said, voice steady. Then I hung up. I stood there, heartbeat steady. Not from fear, but rage. They thought they could break me. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Then they went after my practice. I should have expected it. After the lawsuit, after the social media attacks, after every desperate attempt to claw back into my life. Of course they wouldn't stop there. But knowing something is coming doesn't soften the blow when it hits. I was reviewing client files when Marlo knocked, her expression troubled. You need to check your email, she said carefully. I raised an eyebrow but grabbed my phone. The subject line made my stomach drop, concerning allegations against you. I opened it. Penelope, I hope this isn't true, but I wanted to bring this to your attention. We've received multiple anonymous messages claiming you have a history of unethical practice, particularly regarding family therapy. They allege you manipulate clients, abandon your professional responsibilities, and have serious boundary issues. We value our professional relationship, but given these claims, we need clarification. The sender was from the State Psychology Board. I scrolled down, pulse hammering. Attached were screenshots from fake accounts, all repeating the same lies, that I exploited vulnerable clients, that I built my practice on manipulation, that I was unfit to practice psychology. I exhaled sharply and slammed my phone down, hands clenched. Marlo hovered near the door. What's happening? I forced myself to breathe slowly. They're trying to destroy me. Her brow furrowed. Who? I grabbed my phone and started dialing. Who do you think? 15 minutes later, I was on the phone with the board representative. She hesitated before speaking. Look, Penelope, I don't want to believe this, but these complaints, there are many. Do you know their source? I asked, voice tight. Silence, then reluctantly, some accounts were traced to IP addresses linked to your family. I closed my eyes, gripping my desk edge. They had crossed every line. For years, they tried manipulating me with guilt. When that failed, they humiliated me publicly. Now they were attacking everything I'd built. They had made a mistake. Because this was war. I called an emergency meeting with my professional advisor. She sat across from me, face grave. My recommendation, don't engage publicly. Stay quiet. Let this blow over. No, I said firmly. I'm not staying quiet. Not this time. I turned to my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard as I drafted my statement. For years, I suffered under manipulative family members. When I walked away, I did so to protect myself. Now, after 15 years, they're trying to destroy my livelihood. I will not let them. I hit post. Let them come. I wasn't afraid anymore. Hours later, my phone buzzed. A text from Theodore, you ungrateful brat. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I stared at the screen before typing my final message. If you continue, I will pursue legal action. This is your last warning. I hit send. No response. But I knew they wouldn't stop. They wanted war. The next day, another court summons arrived. Marlo placed the thick envelope on my desk, face pale. It's from a law firm, she said carefully. I already knew the source. I opened it with deliberate slowness. The bold text confirmed my suspicions: Theodore and Beatrice Holloway versus Penelope Holloway. The grounds: neglecting filial responsibilities under state law. I laughed bitterly. So this was their final move. When emotional blackmail, public humiliation, and professional sabotage failed, they turned to the courts. Marlo lingered in the doorway. What do you want to do? I exhaled sharply and reached for my phone. Call Evelyn. Tell her I'm coming. Evelyn sat across from me, the lawsuit spread across her polished desk. She skimmed the pages, shaking her head. They have a weak case, she said finally. Georgia doesn't enforce strict filial responsibility laws, but they could still damage your reputation. I clenched my fists. Then we make it public. On our terms. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You're certain? I nodded, decision made. I've played defense long enough. Time for people to know who they really are. That night, I crafted my statement. I held nothing back. I told the truth, the complete truth about my stepdad and mom, about their psychological manipulation, about the therapy session where they abandoned me at 19, about how they resurfaced only when they needed something. By morning, the post had gone viral. The tide turned immediately. The same strangers who once condemned me for being ungrateful were now disgusted by their actions. Comments flooded and filled with outrage. This is beyond cruel. What kind of parents abandon their child during therapy then sue them 15 years later? I believed them initially, but they deserve whatever's coming. Suing your stepdaughter after abandoning her? Unbelievable. The shift in public opinion was swift. They had lost control of the narrative. 3 days later, Rosalind called. Her voice was strained, barely audible. They lost everything, Penny. I sat in my car, staring at the suburban skyline. That's on them. She exhaled shakily. They're saying it's your fault. Of course they were. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. No, Rosalind. It's their fault. Every choice they made led here. For once, she didn't argue. A week later, I drove past their house. A for sale sign sat in the yard. The place looked smaller than I remembered, almost lifeless. I expected to feel victory, some triumph. But all I felt was relief. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need validation. They no longer had power over me. And that was enough. For the first time in 15 years, I finally felt free. No weight on my shoulders. No lingering fear of when they would appear next, trying to drag me back into the past I'd fought to escape. I was home. Atlanta's suburbs stretched beneath my window, bathed in golden evening light. A warm breeze brushed my skin as I sat with my legs tucked under me, a cup of tea in hand. The chaos had finally settled, leaving only silence. But even peace had one final test. A knock at my door shattered the quiet. I knew before I stood who it was. I opened it to find Rosalind, her eyes swollen, expression exhausted. Penny. Her voice cracked. Please. I didn't move. They have nowhere to go, she whispered. Theodore's drinking more. Beatrice keeps saying they need one more chance. They're still your family. I gripped the door frame, heart heavy. She still didn't understand. They made their choice, I said evenly. Rosalind's face crumpled. How can you be so? What? I cut in. Cold? Heartless? Selfish? Tears spilled over her lashes. I just don't want to lose my cousin over this. I inhaled sharply, throat tight. You didn't lose me, I said quietly. They did. Rosalind let out a choked sob, hands trembling as she wiped her face. They just need. I shook my head. I'm not responsible for fixing what they broke. Her shoulders slumped. I swallowed the lump in my throat and stepped back. Take care of yourself, Rose. Then I shut the door. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. An hour later, I sat by my window again, watching the sun dip below the horizon. For years, their voices had echoed in my head, shaping my choices, the guilt, the shame, the what-ifs. But now, just silence. And it was beautiful. I pulled out my phone and found Uncle Clarence's contact, the only real family I'd ever had. I typed, "Dinner this weekend?" My treat. His response came instantly, "Finally. I've been waiting. Barbecue or seafood?" A small smile touched my lips. Barbecue. Extra cornbread. I took a deep breath, then went to my call log. Their numbers stared back like ghosts refusing to rest. Slowly, I hit block. No more second chances. No more manipulations. No more guilt. I walked inside and closed the door. I was free. Family isn't about blood. It's about who truly stands by you. Sometimes the people who should love us most hurt us deepest. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's survival. You deserve to be free.